I want to talk to you.
The last time we talked, Mr. Smith, you reduced me to tears. I promise you it won't happen again.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
I hope this is all working okay. Because I know I'm aware I'm several thousand miles away.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, all right.
Awesome. For some reason, I didn't have Skype on this computer. I literally just downloaded it and opened it.
All right.
Seconds before you called. I have no idea what happened.
I only got the call recording thing working in the last 5 minutes.
Outstanding.
Seems to be doing
Could
okay so far.
possibly go wrong.
It's doing things live. Something always goes wrong. Anyway, how are you doing?
Excellent. It is bright and early. I have fed and medicated all of my pets.
Oh, okay, cool. Completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, how long do you have to chat? Because I have a few questions.
Let's just see how it goes, and if it starts to take 3 hours, that could be a little problematic.
I don't think it'll take 3 hours. Okay. Well, just to get started then, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Oh, okay. I'm currently managing editor of The Escapist. That means I'm in charge of making sure the day-to-day keeps going. I oversee the news. I commission and edit all the features. I work with our columnists and our cartoonist and our video contributors to make sure everything goes up the way it's supposed to and when it's supposed to and at a quality it's supposed to. And I also do things like this. I talk to people about games, and I moderate panels and review games, and I do a podcast every week. It's a
Wow.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds very interesting and also far more high profile than anyone I've ever spoken to. Brilliant.
It's very interesting. Every day is different. There's always something new that we need to think about, worry about, or focus on. So yeah, it is. It is. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah. So, how did you get into that?
Well, I was in the real world dun, dun, dun,
Yes.
for a long time. Actually, my entire career's been in publishing. But I was writing about video games on the side because I loved
Yes.
it. And then about 5 years ago, I got the opportunity to do it for actual monies.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was actually a really, really tough decision because I had to leave a very well-paying, secure job with lots of great benefits, which when you're an adult, that's, you have to
Yeah.
work on things like that. And chuck it all to move several states away and become a freelance video game writer full time.
Wow.
But it seems
That's
to have worked out pretty well.
yes. That's pretty impressive. It's kind of what my ambition is to do, really. Hence the small gaming website.
That's what I actually did for 5 years. I
Yeah.
was the executive editor of an all volunteer gaming site,
Oh,
and
okay.
and we were all doing it in the hopes that one day we would get discovered and someone would offer to pay us for doing this. And what was really great about that was it gave me the opportunity to learn how to write about games, how to manage people, what's
Yes.
important, what isn't, with a safety net because no one was really looking. So if I made a mistake, and of course I did, because you always make mistakes as you learn, it didn't
Yes.
really matter in the long term. I wasn't being shredded on Twitter for it or anything like that. A lot of people are very, very frustrated that they're currently working for smaller sites or volunteer sites. Don't, man, that's great experience. Really, really helpful.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'll probably pass that on to the rest of the team, really. Um, yeah. It's an interesting experience. We've only been at it for about a year,
Oh, wow. Okay, awesome.
but we're still quite young, so I guess we've got the
Sure.
time.
Yep.
um, you've also managed to cover one of the questions I was going to ask without me asking it, so that's great.
Okay. Yeah,
So
sure.
moving on to the next one, the Escapist has hosted some kind of controversial personalities, namely Yahtzee Croshaw, Jim Sterling,
Sure.
a bit Bob Chipman, not so
Sure.
much.
Absolutely.
Um, what there seems to be a lot of hostility in the gaming world
Yeah.
about
Oh, you can just
people who
stop
say
there. There's
controversial
really
things.
hostility in the gaming world. Period. The end.
Well, within certain subsets of the community, shall we say?
Sure.
And how why do you think that the community can be so hostile about those things?
Because hating is easy, and hating is fun, and hating is sexy.
And
You
the
know.
internet's anonymous, I suppose.
Yeah, and the internet's anonymous, and um, it's it's a lot easier to hate someone than it is to love someone. Love takes effort, hate,
Yes.
hate doesn't.
I see.
And you get to uh, being nasty can be very cathartic for people because in your daily life, if you were actually like the way some people are on the internet,
Yeah.
you forget it. You'd be abused constantly. You'd be, people would be punching you in the face. You
Yes.
can't do that. Even when the situation calls for it, you can't really release in that way. So
No.
for people, being a jerk on the internet is their way of getting that kind of catharsis of, wow, I get to be, oh, that guy at work who really pissed me off. I'm going to actually channel that anger
Yeah.
towards this, internet contributor. Um, some people do it simply because the internet has kind of a pack mentality, and as long as you're not picking on me, I will help you pick on whomever you want. So long as that's not being pointed in my direction, I don't care. I'll help pile on.
Yeah.
And it's a self-preservation thing. It's a fitting in thing. It's very tough. When a lot of people are lining up to say, you suck, you suck, you suck, it's very, very difficult to be the one person standing up and saying, I disagree. I,
Yes.
I really like this. I think it's
Yeah.
good. And I think you guys are being jerks.
I
That
think.
takes a
Yeah.
lot of strength of character. And it's understandable that if a person isn't, if it's not that important to them, like if they're not personally invested in whatever the thing is that's
Yeah.
being discussed, it's understandable that they don't want to put themselves out there in the line of fire. And they either just kind of stand to the side and don't say anything, or they chime in with a, yeah, you suck, you know?
Yeah.
Um, the gaming culture is very, very cynical because for all those reasons, and mostly because it's more fun to assume someone is doing something nefarious
Yeah.
and you've just misunderstood them or you disagree with them. It's
Okay.
way sexier to think that that reviewer who gave that game a high score has been bought than
Yeah.
they just like the game more than you. It's more entertaining, and a lot of people who are just constantly negative are on the internet constantly. They're not really good at maintaining their own levels of interest and entertainment. They need stuff fed to them
Yeah.
constantly. They need that constant sensory overload, or they just they get very uncomfortable, and so they'll make comments simply to maintain that. They won't even really care.
I see.
We get shredded on a daily basis. We get horrible, horrible things to us said on a daily basis because people are bored.
Yeah. Having read through a bit of the Escapist forums, I
Yeah.
have seen, a bit of that. So
And the escape forums are extremely well moderated. You go into other websites forums, it's a thousand times worse.
curious you should say that actually, because I'm on a forum called starmen.net.
Mm-hmm.
They're a Mother Earthbound fan
Yeah.
site.
Yeah.
And I think they're possibly the best moderated forums I've been on. But then when I was working on some stuff with my PSP, changing firmware and boring things,
Mhm.
I was on some hardware forums. It was just terrible. It's just
Yeah.
there's no control.
Right.
And I think that, if you do leave people to their own devices, especially on the internet, sometimes it's not going to end well.
Oh yeah. Usually it won't end well. And
Yeah.
the common thinking is hate drives traffic.
Yeah.
Let people, scream like gibbering baboons, and it's click, 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 click.
Yes.
It depends on what your main focus is. We at the Escapist, we want a happy, thriving, engaged community. So we make an effort to weed out the jerks as much as we possibly can
Yes.
because they're jerks and nobody wants the jerks at the party.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. What's next? There seems to be a numerical imbalance within gaming journalism specifically, but journalism on a wider scale as well, between male and female journalists. I think, okay, our website's different because we do have two men, two women,
Mm-hmm.
but most of the publications I've read have maybe one or two women and the rest of the team are men.
Absolutely true.
Do you have any opinions on how you could sort of make that up, how to change that balance so it's more equal?
Well, it, it's a more complicated question than it originally looks, right?
Yeah,
Because on the surface, it looks like just we'll just hire more girls. Duh.
yeah,
just to give you a kind of snapshot, a couple years ago, I ran an ad on The Escapist looking for new news writers,
Yes.
and I got over 450 applicants.
Wow.
Maybe, maybe 5% of them were women.
Huh.
So if, you can't give jobs to the people who aren't looking for them.
Yes.
So, I mean, the simple fact of the matter is the overwhelming majority of people looking for game journalism jobs are guys.
Yeah.
And so it becomes I found when I was going through the applicants, I was basically engaging in flat out sexism because I
I see.
found myself giving the girls more of a leash to with their, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
okay, maybe they're not that bad. And then when I realized that I was doing that, I'm like, wait a minute, you're just giving her
Yeah.
extra consideration because she's a girl, and you desperately want to hire women. That's blatantly unfair. So I
True.
had to start reviewing applications with no name on them. Um, the thing is about more women will become interested in game journalism as more women become interested in games, and as more, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. They need to be able to see
Yes.
women doing it because it's a very hostile environment. The audience is extremely hostile towards women. Not everybody,
Yes.
but mm, so they need it's easy to understand why someone new wouldn't want to walk into that.
Yeah.
You think about any new job. You start any new job in an office, at a bakery, I don't care what it is. Your first few days on the job, you feel very, very small and naked and exposed because you don't know what you're doing yet.
Yeah.
Now imagine doing that in public with
Yeah.
people just poised, desperately waiting for you to make a mistake so they can attack you. That happens anyway in game journalism. It happens double if you're a female.
Yes. I think when we have had negative feedback, it has tended to be towards my girlfriend and our feature editor, Sean. She has received a bit of the negative feedback. It tends to be more about the content and the writing, mainly because she said Kid Icarus Uprising was bad, which was a bad idea. Um,
Do they
but
know she's a girl?
sorry.
Do they know she's a girl?
Well, that's interesting. The main feedback I got on it that was negative was said he, because I don't think they realised that Sean is a girl's name. 'Cause it's not a very common name
No,
outside
it's not.
the UK.
Yeah, it's over here
Um,
either.
yeah,
Because another part of why women tend not to want to be involved in this is because when we get insults, like if a dude gets insults, it's you're dumb, you're on the take, you're whatever.
I
If
see.
if a girl gets insults, it's you're fat, you're ugly, you're a lesbian, you don't really play games. They're more gender
Yeah,
based and they're more personal.
I
Uh,
see.
which putting yourself out there publicly on the internet, you have to get used to that anyway, which is hard. Just I don't care who you are, it's difficult when the attacks are made personal so regularly.
Yeah,
It's even harder to get used to them. It's harder to shake off. So we'll get more women involved as more can see that. One of the reasons why I feel very, very strongly about what I do and getting out there and being visible of what I do is so women can see, like, oh, hey, wow,
yeah,
it's possible. You can do it. This is, she deals with this, but she can still get up and go to work every day. Oh,
yes.
all right, cool.
Okay, that is good. So I presume you have encountered sort of this
Oh,
attitude.
Jesus, yes.
Yes.
It's funny because every articles will come up or things will come up, and people, women will say, I received this kind of comment and this kind of comment and this kind of comment. My coworkers and my friends will always say to me like, oh, but that doesn't happen to you, right? I'm like, yeah. Not daily, but probably weekly. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Huh. Well, for a site as big as yours is, weekly's actually probably not too bad.
Oh, I know. And the
Yeah.
stuff that for me, it has dropped off drastically.
Yeah.
Because the longer you stick around and the more you show you're not willing to engage in that,
Yeah.
the less fun it becomes for people
Yeah.
and less likely they are to keep doing it. Like, yeah, I've had really horrible, horrible, horrible things said to me. Still
Yeah.
here. Now what you got? Oh, yeah, you want to rape me to death. Okay, not the most creative thing I've ever heard. What else you got? Bring it.
I think I have kind of limited experience with this, because as I say, I'm not terribly active on a lot of forums
Hmm.
for reasons of people being idiots a lot of the time. But
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
it does seem to be a lot more vicious when it's directed towards women. I think that's a shame. But
Well, the thing is, it's so easy. That's the thing. Like, what
yes,
do you say? The number one thing that gets said to a dude to try and really cut him down is you're gay, because clearly, according to the internet, the worst possible thing that could happen to you is being
yeah,
a homosexual. Oh my God. With
yes,
if they say to a dude like, you're fat, you're ugly, dudes don't tend to react to that as dramatically as women do.
yeah.
So it's just easier to go after women that way.
Okay. So how common do you think this sexism in gaming is? I mean, is that what percentage of the community would you say is that sort of person? Because
That
I'd
is,
say it's a pretty significant minority. They're just very vocal.
yeah, yeah. If you mean the portion of the community that I believe genuinely hates women, has problems with women, is misogynistic, I think it's really, really small. I really do.
Yeah,
I think they're very vocal, unfortunately, but I think it's really, really small because without question, when I actually go out and I meet people,
yeah,
like PAX or the Escapist Expo that we're having in 2 weeks, um, they're awesome. They're so cool. I could
yeah,
just sit there and talk to them for hours because I just love spending time with them because they're just people who love games like I do and who are
yeah,
nerds like I am, and we're all the same, right? That's
yeah,
awesome. So I think the actual percentage is really very small. But then going back to that pack mentality, you get a lot of the middle group either chiming in to try and save themselves or deflect
yeah,
attention, or staying silent to just not get into the fight. You're like, okay, just I don't want to be part of this.
yeah.
So I think it ends up looking like more people, like a bigger part of the community, is actually misogynist than is actually true.
Yes, I think what might happen is that men, well, not specifically men, but people who are willing to stand up to that sort of behavior,
Hmm.
like they'll try once and then it won't work and they'll just leave. I think there's a big subset of people who have just abandoned online gaming.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with
Yeah,
that completely. And also, if you talk to someone who isn't a gamer, who isn't like really into the culture,
yeah,
you describe to them the type of things that happen, they look at you like you've got three heads. I was home visiting my family, and I was explaining to them that I get death threats and things, and my brother
yeah.
looks at me. Now he's very much not part of this culture at all.
Okay,
Um, he's a volunteer fireman, and he's a jock, and he's
yeah,
that guy.
yeah.
And he's like, "Wait a minute, you have people threatening to kill you?" I said, "Yeah." Like, why? Like, "Oh, because I like a game more than they do." And he's like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." Like,
He's right.
gosh, when you put it that way, we're so in it. This is so much of our day to day.
Yes.
We forget how utterly ridiculous this is. Like, yeah, this person is this angry at me because I like the video game quote too much. What the hell is wrong with you?
I do. I actually had. I think it happens. There's the opposite way. So there's the misogynists who are threatening towards women, and there's the people who are creepy towards women.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I
that
was on I was watching a stream this morning by the guys from Australian Gamer, or what used to be Australian Gamer,
happens.
and they were doing a League of Legends battle with each
Hmm.
other, and there was a woman hosting it. Um, and first thing she said, she was like, "Welcome to the Game Planet Australia League of Legends tournament or whatever." And the first comment was some guy saying, "Wow, you sound hot. Age, sex, location."
Oh yeah,
And
yes, that's
yeah,
standard.
I just left because I said, "Oh, just shut up," and then he carried on. So
Yeah, yeah,
forget it. I'm not going to debate with that sort of person because I think they're just so weird.
yeah. Well, that again is not as easy as it appears, because there are a lot of people get into gaming because it is a way for them to socially interact with people in a non physical way because
Yes.
their social skills just are broken. That guy, now that guy might just be a creeper, but he also might genuinely think he's being charming.
Right.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
You run into guys who want to connect with other people, who want to connect with women, and literally just plain don't know how.
Hmm.
So they take a very blatant approach to, I would like you to know that I'm interested in you sexually by
Wow.
saying something like, I think you're hot, can I see your tits? Uh, that's some of it. Some of it is just taking advantage of the anonymity to be creepy.
Yeah.
But some of it is just they just and it's tough because you don't want to be mean,
Yeah.
you want to be mean to someone who is just trying to connect as all humans do,
Yeah.
but are totally creeping you out. I mean, I've been followed around at events. I've been
Right.
made inappropriate offers. Um, and that happens to every single female
Yeah.
journalist I know, just all of them. But then you get guys um, who go past the line by like touching you or
Yeah.
showing up at your hotel room or whatever, and then it's just yeah.
Yeah. I suppose I might have a slightly skewed view of it because since the age of probably about 12, most of my friends have been female.
Oh,
I've
see, so you
I've
yeah,
not been a big part of, male culture as it were. So
yeah.
I don't kind of understand the logic behind people who act like that.
You're
So
skewed to treat women like people, and they're skewed to treat women like prizes.
I see.
And that's, I mean, I'm not, I certainly don't want to come down on guys. I mean, it's male female interaction is complicated in a wide variety of ways.
Yeah.
And that's even just talking about strictly heterosexual interaction. And so, there's all
Yeah.
sorts of other sexualities and tastes, and it all gets very, very complicated. And then you add the online space into it. But then you also get guys who are just plain gross. Like I was at, I think it was PAX. It was PAX, and
Yeah.
I was in line to play Aliens Colonial Marines multiplayer,
Yeah.
which is awesome, by the way. It's so fun. Anyway,
I'm looking forward to it.
oh, so good. Anyway, and there was a girl who was playing one of the rounds, and quite cute girl doing
Yeah.
quite. And the guys in front of me in line were just pigs
Oh dear.
about her, what they wanted to do to her, how she looked. I mean, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to play in the round with them, and I refused. I'm like, no, I don't want to even breathe the same air as these people.
Yeah.
But the bigger problem was the guy who was working the booth.
Yes.
Not only did he not shut them down, he
Yeah.
chimed in.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So that's the problem. Like, if you want to go be bro-tastic and talk about that's great, groovy.
Yes.
Time and place.
Yeah.
If you're in a bar with your buddies and it's just you guys, you talk however you want because that's your social circle and you get
Yeah.
to do that. When you're in public, don't
Yes.
force your behavior on other people.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think this leads me on to another question I had written down, which was you've mentioned PAX and
Sure.
the Escapist Expo coming up. Um, both of these
Yes.
events are in the USA, and the question I had was a good deal of games with main characters that are quite well developed and female.
Mm-hmm.
The ones I've got written down are The Longest Journey
Mm-hmm.
and Heavy Rain
Oh,
and
sure.
Tomb Raider a bit and Mother 3.
Sure.
They're not developed in the USA, or at least weren't created in the USA.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Is that a coincidence, or is there something about the American demographic that seems to prefer having macho male lead characters, Mirror's Edge excluded?
It's interesting you bring up Mirror's Edge and the new Tomb Raider because they're written by the same woman.
Oh right,
Rhianna Pratchett. Uh, U.S. culture, and I'm speaking extremely generally,
yes,
is very much male centric.
I see.
The male is the head of the household.
Yeah,
Definitely the machismo thing. Very
yeah,
clear ideas about what is manly and what is not. The man's role in the household versus the woman's whole role in the household.
yeah,
Very generally speaking. I certainly don't mean to imply that all Americans are like that, anything like that. Blah blah blah. But yeah, our Our heroes, our cultural heroes, tend to be male.
Yes.
They tend to be strong. They tend to be rugged. They tend to favor the physical over the intellectual. Um,
Yes.
you know, the cowboy culture, very
Yeah.
much so. Um, do I think that means that, they don't appreciate well-developed female characters? No, of course not. I don't think that at all. What I think the biggest problem is right now is the further up you go up the business food chain of game development,
Yeah.
the more you get stuck in this will sell, this won't sell.
Yeah.
And if you look at, Hollywood obviously is a great indicator of what American business,
Yes.
the American audience wants. You tend to see the same kinds of characters over and over and over again in the same kinds of situations
Yeah.
over and over again. So they clearly think that the audience either doesn't want or, more importantly, won't buy certain
Yeah.
kinds of stories and certain kinds of characters.
I see.
As the video game development grows, obviously you'll have more opportunities to expand on that. But it's a business. It's very much a business, and they
Yeah.
want to make sure that it sells. And they tend to think that you want girls with big boobs and guys with big guns.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems pretty common. I think what's interesting is a lot of the bigger franchises, namely the Call of Duty series and Gears of War,
Hmm.
but also other things that pretty much only appeal to the American demographic. Things like that one that came out last year where North Korea invades America. I can't remember what it was called.
Homefront.
That one.
Yep.
Um, I don't think that sold at all here. I don't know why anyone would buy it here.
It didn't sell that well here either.
Oh, right. But yeah, those games specifically have. I don't think they have a single female protagonist. I think there was one in one of the Call of Duty games like 6 years ago.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I wouldn't read too much into that
Right.
because the American military, while there are certainly a great number of women in the American military, in
Yes.
a Call of Duty kind of situation, they're not
Yeah.
going to crop up. It's going to be overwhelmingly male. That's a fairly accurate representation of the
Yeah.
gender demographic in that particular situation. In Gears of War, it's futuristic, so you could shake that up. And they did add a female gear in Gears 3, which I thought was
Okay.
great. And what was also great was she was just a gear. She wasn't like wearing half armor
Ah,
and
okay.
all. She was a female Marine. It was
Yeah.
awesome. America is very much a militaristic culture. We love
Yes.
our military. We love our guns. That's ingrained into our culture, even if we
Yeah.
don't like what the military is doing. If we don't agree with the politics of the situation,
Yeah.
we love soldiers. That's just a thing that we really really dig. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why those kinds of games are constantly going to be introduced
Yes.
because they'll sell. Because you mean I get to be another soldier and play with all these awesome guns?
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, Homefront mixed that up a little bit. Uh, I think the we do tend to be a little, how do I put this, narrow in scope as to
Yeah.
what we give a damn about,
Yeah.
and tend to think the world revolves around us. Again,
Yes.
very, very generally, not trying to offend any Americans out there, but it's true. I mean, we tend to think like America, fuck yeah, and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to think is absolutely awesome, capital A, that the rest of the world is going to be like, no, I'm good,
Yeah.
thanks.
Well, yeah, it's sensible. I mean, obviously, you're gonna. It's very hard to release a game worldwide because you have to appeal to everyone's sensibilities, and when you've got
Yeah,
subject matter like that, it's going to be, very very specific to American
it
audience.
is. But I mean, this is not something that is only American. I mean, if you look at Japanese culture and how Japanese culture informs certain games,
That's true.
it doesn't translate well to the rest of the world, and they don't care because
Yeah.
it's what they dig. Like you take something like Tokyo Jungle,
Yes.
which I can't wait for personally. Um,
Looks fantastic. Yeah, I
oh
haven't
my
played it
God,
yet.
please, I get to play as a post-apocalyptic Pomeranian. I'm all over that.
Yeah.
But that is an extremely Japanese game.
Yes.
That's not a game that will probably do very well here because it's very Japanese and very weird. Um, and that it's not So it's not just American culture that doesn't necessarily translate across the world. Other
True.
cultures don't necessarily translate across the world either. Um,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of whether or not the game development community in that particular culture is vibrant enough and flavored enough
Yeah.
for the culture to actually come out in the final product.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Going back to sort of sexism and abuse of women,
Mhm.
do you think, what sort of steps are the major companies, mainly the ones that operate the online services, Valve and Sony and Microsoft,
Sure.
what are they doing to sort of stop this, or at least keep a lid on it?
I can't speak to what they're all doing because I don't know. I
Yeah.
am only familiar with what Microsoft does.
Yes.
They rely on reports of behavior.
Okay.
If someone sends you a message over Xbox Live, you
Yeah.
report it and it gets investigated.
Okay.
And if it's inappropriate, that person gets banned.
Yeah.
And
Um,
that's all they can really do, honestly.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, unless they hire several thousand people to
Yep.
hide in everyone's chat.
Well,
But
exactly. And it's the ideal versus the practical
yeah.
and versus the intrusive, you know? I mean, if let's say you and your girlfriend are playing against each other online and you're like, "Oh, bitch, what was that?"
Yeah.
She knows you, she knows the intent, she knows exactly the context for what you just said.
Yes.
Someone else listening in knows none of that.
Good
Now
point.
suddenly you're branded misogynistic.
Yeah.
Eh,
I think that is a problem, that sometimes it can be hard to draw the line.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
So
and what is offensive to one person is not offensive to another, and
yeah.
vice versa.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I'm struggling to phrase this question. Um, it seems sort of the debate about hostility of gamers online isn't. It's not exclusively about women. Gay people, transgender people, tend to be given
Oh yeah,
some
sure.
grief about how they are as well.
Oh,
And
worse, far worse.
yes, probably. But the thing is, they're probably less numerous as well.
Sure.
So yeah, um, I think part of that can probably be traced. They're probably becoming increasingly present in gaming, or people are increasingly aware of them in gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and gamers as a group have for a long time been seen as sort of the preserve of white, straight, young adult males.
Yep.
So how do those communities respond to that? Because there's that convention GamerCon or
Yep.
something coming up. Is that
Mm-hmm.
is that the way to deal with it, or is there something else they could be doing to sort of help?
Well, first of all, I think GamerCon is fantastic. I am so excited about that. I think it's
Yeah,
wonderful, and people who don't think it's necessary don't get the point. They
yeah,
don't get it. Um, the best thing that you, and I don't necessarily mean you, but I mean the young straight white male in the gaming community. The
yeah,
best thing you can do when you see abuse happen, and abuse of anyone, whether it's woman, whether it's trans, whether it's gay, whatever,
yeah.
step in and say, no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to talk to people like that. That's
Okay.
unacceptable. You know, bullies are cowards at heart.
Yes.
Bullies get off on the power trip.
Yeah.
If you remove that power from them, they got nothing.
Okay.
They rely on being able to shout people down.
Yeah.
If enough people stand up and say no, unacceptable, no,
Yeah.
then they've lost their playground.
Okay.
It's not going to work all of the time. In some cases, it might actually make the situation worse because his bully friends might come in and start
Yeah.
shouting even louder. That
Yeah.
that is absolutely something that might happen, and does happen.
Yes.
But to do nothing ensures that it will continue.
Okay.
Do something increases the chances it will stop.
Yeah.
And then, of course, depending on what the situation is, if there are moderator options, report the behavior. If you're on Xbox Live, report it. If you're on a forum, report it.
Yeah.
Use the mechanisms that are already in place in whatever arena you are currently seeing
Yeah.
this happen. and definitely do that. But yeah, like don't just stand idly by and be like, wow, that really sucks. Um,
Yeah.
and also, even if you just send privately a message of support to whomever you see being mistreated,
Yeah.
that can go a long way as well. Like, I'm really sorry that happened to you. Think you're a great member of this community.
Yeah.
Really hope you stick around, whatever. Just some sort of I don't hate you message can go a long way because some days you really need to hear that. You
Yeah.
really need to know, okay, I'm not a horrible person. This guy's being a jerk. You need that reality check.
Yeah.
Because if you hear you're awful, you're awful, you're awful, you're awful, you're awful enough, you start to believe it.
Yeah. I think there is. I mean, even among the bullies online, I think a lot, a bigger chunk of gaming culture probably has self-esteem issues and things
Oh,
than
sure. Absolutely.
the community at large, mainly because it's escapism, and
Yeah, absolutely.
it's escaping into a community where you can be accepted, where
Yep.
you wouldn't otherwise be. And I think that, unfortunately, having a lot of people with self-esteem issues in one place isn't
hmm
always going to lead to a good thing.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. We turn to gaming because the real world doesn't treat us very well.
Yeah.
We don't feel comfortable out there, so we go in here.
Yeah.
And when you also add to that the fact that a big swath of the gaming community is very, very young and just hasn't learned how to deal with people yet, and that's not an
Yeah.
insult. It's just a time served kind
Yeah.
of thing. Uh, they make mistakes. They behave badly. Hit
Yeah.
them 10 years from now with that exact same situation, and they'll handle it much differently.
Yeah.
If you're 21, think about how you behaved when you were 11, right? Vastly different. We,
Yeah.
whatever age we are, we tend to think like, no, I totally got it going on now. Yeah, 5 years from now, you'll look back and you'll be like, I was such an idiot. Oh my
Yeah.
God. And that's just life, right?
Yeah.
So you combine inexperience with low self-esteem with anonymity.
Yes.
Yeah, you're gonna get some really bad social situations.
I think it was Penny Arcade who called it the gift. The
Yep, yep.
yeah.
And that's the perfect way to put it. Absolutely perfect way to sum it up.
Yes. I
But
think
like,
yeah.
what I don't, even if you screw up, like these aren't bad people. And I
Yeah.
think what gets lost a lot is that these are people. They have
Yeah.
feelings and motivations, and they get hurt, and okay, some of them are just jerks or trolls or whatever, and they just they get off on making you miserable. And okay, you're a horrible person, fine, whatever, go over there. But
Yeah.
most people you deal with online, perfectly decent. Maybe they're a little damaged.
Yeah.
But so are you, probably. We're all a little wonky.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable. Quickly, this is completely unrelated, but I did have it written down. I wrote it down at the last minute. What are your thoughts on Nintendo Power closing down? What sort
Okay.
of impact's that going to have on the remaining print publications and on journalism as a whole?
None.
None?
No, I mean, okay. First of all, I never read Nintendo Power
Yeah.
because I'm old. So
Yes.
when Nintendo Power came out, I was already too old for it.
Okay.
Because it was for kids. I mean, this is why people have this immense affection for it, is because they read it as
Yes.
children. It's a huge part of their childhood, and I was older, so I was not part of the Nintendo generation. I'm an Atari generation. That's
Oh,
me.
okay.
But the thing is, print people look on these things as things of affection, right? Print
Yes.
is a really expensive business.
Yeah.
I was in print publishing for most of my career. The subscriptions don't pay for the cost of shipping. They don't pay for mail, to
Yeah.
actually mail the magazine to your door. What pays are the ads,
Yeah.
right? Now, as people have moved online for their information, it's harder and harder and harder to sell ads in print publications because they're vastly more expensive because printing in four color glossy is wicked expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I found out to my
Yeah.
dismay.
Paper is insanely expensive.
Yeah.
And also you're looking at all they care about are how many people are going to see this ad that I've just spent money on.
Yeah.
And numbers are online. More people are going to see it online
Yeah.
every single time. So these print publications, whether it's EGM, whether it's Nintendo Power, whatever,
Yeah.
they're just not financially viable anymore. So the death of one has absolutely nothing to do with the death of another. Uh, Gamers are very omnivorous when it comes to the information they want. They will read multiple different websites, multiple different magazines. They're
Yes.
not like, oh, well, this one doesn't exist anymore, so I'm just going to stop reading. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
The only ones that are going to survive are ones that are tied to something. Like Game Informer, you buy your discount card at GameStop, you automatically get your subscription to Game Informer.
Yeah.
That's the only print model that is likely to survive because
Sorry, I've lost you there.
it's the only one
Got
that
you.
has a guaranteed sustainability. Not
Yeah.
to get all. So yeah, I mean, Nintendo Power. I understand that people are going to mourn its loss, but
Yes.
grand scheme of things, it's just. I mean, it's just yet another print publication that couldn't deal with online. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. I think I'm not sure of the exact numbers here in the UK, but I know a lot more people here who read games magazines. I have a subscription to official Nintendo magazine UK,
Sure. Hmm.
which is it's the same publishers as Nintendo Power, Future Limited.
Well, there's Future US and there's Future UK, and then
Well,
they merged a while back, and
yeah,
but it's different. Yeah, again, businessy.
yes, and my girlfriend reads official PlayStation magazine,
Sure.
but
Hmm.
the prices are what's gonna eventually kill it. But unfortunately, they need to, they sort of need to raise the prices to survive. Because I don't know how much the cover price for Nintendo Power and US gaming magazines are, but official PlayStation magazine here is £6.50 per
Oh,
issue, I
oh,
think.
geez.
So about $10.
Wow. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
I mean, for that you get a Blu-ray with it with some
Oh,
demos and stuff
okay.
on.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, if they're free demos, I don't see,
And
why they can't
also,
just cut that.
and the news is out of date.
No videos.
By the time you get it, it's a month out of date. If you
Yeah,
have PS3, you can already be downloading those demos if you have internet.
yeah,
There's just not the audience just I mean the internet killed print. I mean just straight up. The
yeah.
internet killed print.
I think what is happening is that the print magazines that the ones I still read, they
Hmm.
they make a lot of effort to link the print
Sure.
publication to the online
Yep.
version.
Yep.
Like they'll have excerpts from the forums and forum competitions, and they'll put them in the magazine and things like that. So I think that and they'll run competitions where they'll say, "Oh, you can have a review in the magazine or something." I think that they kind of try and entice people
Sure.
from the internet to go and buy this print publication.
Yeah.
But that's not a model that's going to last forever,
No, no,
because
they're doing.
eventually, the numbers are going to drop off. Publications are going to start closing,
Yep.
and then where are you if you've been pushing print for several years? You've proved that your business model has failed. You're not going to look like a great publisher.
Yeah. And the problem is they're two completely different ways of thinking, print
Yeah,
publishing versus online publishing, and it's not something that people who've been in print publishing can adapt to particularly easily.
yeah,
It's a whole big business thing of publishing models and monetization
yeah,
and all of that. But yeah, the future is definitely online because that's how people are consuming content. That's how they're consuming information. They want
yeah,
information on demand. They want it on their own schedule. They don't want to have to wait for your publication date. They want it in their pocket on their phone when they feel like it.
yeah,
Uh, it's just simply not a model that print can keep up with. It's just not possible. It
yeah,
takes weeks to get your files to the printer, have it printed, and have it distributed.
yeah. Okay, yeah. I think the print journalists I've spoken to also, yeah, they are also active online, or they
Mhm.
run other things on the side. So I think that there isn't such thing as just an
Yeah.
exclusively print journalist anymore, really.
Not in our industry. No.
No. I think
And
especially one thing I've noticed is article length.
Mhm.
Obviously, because you have to make space for ads in print publications, your articles are a lot shorter.
Yep.
So I'm writing a 1,500 word review that would take up 3-4 pages in O&M. So
Yeah.
it's I think for print journalists it might be kind of a shock if they're having to write far longer content than they used to.
Well, they usually it actually writing shorter is a greater skill. It's harder to get your point across
Yes.
being succinct. I would advise you to write a 1,000 word review and not a 1,500 word review.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
there aren't many games that need a review longer than 1,000 words. I'm saying to you as an editor of very long
Yes.
standing. Yeah, it's actually easier to, go from print to online than online to print because people who start in online tend to enjoy the freedom of being able to blather on as long as they want because there are no column inches.
Yeah.
And so then when they have to no, you've got 300 words because that's the room I have for you, they
Yeah.
struggle. So it's actually easier to go from print to online than the other way around.
Okay. That is interesting, and it's probably something I'll learn in the next year because I'm not actually at uni yet. I'm sort of going to university next year and studying journalism. So
Oh, great. Okay.
hopefully I'll learn all that stuff.
You will learn many, many, many things. You will learn how to write headlines. You will learn about the inverted pyramid,
Yes.
ethics.
Well, they already do that in media, but
Okay. Fair enough.
yeah, good to start learning early. Anyway, I think that's all I have for you today.
Okay.
So thanks very much for talking to me.
Absolutely.
And I will stick this up on the website and I'll link it to you on Twitter or something.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that would be great.
Sounds-
Gotta be mean, gotta be everything more. Why don't you like me? Why don't you like me? Why don't you want